day my son was born was supposed to be the best of my life. Instead, it was the day my reality shattered into a million pieces. When my husband finally showed up at the hospital, his words made me question everything I thought I knew about our last 20 years together. I've been married to Mark for 21 years. For most of them, we battled infertility. I've cried more tears than I thought a human body could hold. Tears of hope, of crushing disappointment, of a deep, gnawing despair that never really went away. In the beginning, Mark was my rock. He came to every doctor's appointment, his hand gripping mine as we navigated a maze of medical jargon and failed procedures. But as the years dragged on, something shifted. He became distant. I wrote it off for a long time, blaming the stress. Infertility can wreck even the strongest marriage, right? But the late nights at the office and the hushed phone calls in his home office became his new normal. I'd walk in and hear a hurried, "I'll call you back," before he quickly ended the call. It set off alarm bells in the back of my mind, but I was too consumed with my own grief to entertain the paranoia. The desire for a child was an all-consuming fire, and I had no energy left to fight shadows. By the time I hit 40, I was running on fumes. But this stubborn, foolish part of me, this last flicker of hope, wouldn't let me quit. I told Mark I wanted to try one last round of IVF. He just shrugged, muttering, "Whatever makes you happy, Chloe," without looking up from his phone. The indifference cut deeper than any anger ever could. And then, against all odds, it happened. The test was positive. "Mark," I whispered, my hand trembling as I held the stick. "We did it. I'm pregnant." "That's great. Really great," he said, but his voice was flat, hollow. I chose to ignore it, clinging to my own joy. 9 months later, I gave birth to a beautiful, healthy boy. Mark refused to be in the delivery room. "I'll just pass out," he claimed, looking genuinely pale. "Then the staff will be busy with me instead of you." So I went through it alone. And when he finally sauntered into my hospital room 2 hours later, his first words were like a physical blow. "Are you sure he's mine?" he asked, his voice chillingly devoid of any emotion. The air left my lungs. "What?" "Mark, how can you even ask that? Of course he's yours. We tried for this for a decade." His jaw tightened and he pulled something from his jacket pocket that I couldn't see. He said, "I have proof." My world tilted on its axis. Proof? What kind of proof could he possibly have? I stared at him, my voice shaking with a mixture of hurt and pure rage. "You're seriously telling me your mother, thinks I faked a pregnancy? What's her theory? That I smuggled a baby into the hospital? Do you hear how insane that sounds?" "She has her reasons," he mumbled, avoiding my eyes. "What reasons?" I demanded, my voice rising. "A grainy photo of some guy parking near our house? And you just believe her?" "She wouldn't lie to me," he said, his tone final. "She's my mother. And I'm your wife, the one who went through hell to have this baby, the one who almost bled out on that table. And you're standing here accusing me of—" I couldn't even finish the sentence. He just turned on his heel. "I'll come back when you're ready to be rational." And with that, he walked out, leaving me alone, trembling with a pain I didn't know was possible. The second he was gone, I grabbed my phone and called my best friend, Sarah. She picked up on the first ring. "Chloe, is the baby okay?" The tears came then, hot and fast. "He thinks I cheated. He said his mom has proof. Sarah, this is crazy. I don't know what to do." "Okay, breathe," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Start from the beginning." When I finished, her tone was sharp. "Something's wrong here, Chloe. You need to look into him. This isn't adding up. Look into him? How? I'll do it, she said, without hesitation. If he's hiding something, I'll find it. A few hours later, she called back. Chloe, he went to a house on the other side of town. A woman answered the door. He walked right in like he owned the place. My heart stopped. What? Listen to me, Sarah said, her voice urgent. This is bigger than a paranoid rant. You need professional help. Hire someone who can connect the dots. The next day, I met with a private investigator named Sophia. She listened intently, her pen scratching against a notepad as I spilled every last detail. It's a tangled web, she said, finally, looking me straight in the eye. But I'll get you answers. Give me 48 hours. 48 hours. All I could do was wait. When I brought Liam home from the hospital, Mark wasn't there. No note, no text, just a deafening silence. What kind of father doesn't show up for his own son? The waiting was agony. I jumped every time my phone buzzed, hoping for an update from Sophia. When my doorbell rang early the next morning, I nearly fell off the couch. Sophia's face was grim, her lips pressed into a thin line. We need to talk. I led her to the kitchen, settling Liam in his bassinet. Her eyes softened for a moment as she looked at him. She leaned forward, her voice low and steady. I tracked down Mark's sister. His sister? I frowned. We don't speak. Well, I thought she was an addict. She's been clean for years, Sophia corrected me gently, and she told me everything. Things that will change your entire understanding of the last 2 decades. What things? I asked, my throat tight. Mark married you for your money, she stated bluntly. His whole family was in on it. It was their plan from the very beginning. What? My voice cracked, and I gripped the edge of the kitchen counter for support. For years, he's been siphoning money from your trust. He wasn't just funding his own lifestyle. He was supporting his other family. He has 3 other children with another woman. No, that's not possible, I choked out. It is, Sophia said, sliding a folder across the table. It's all in here. Bank statements, school tuition records, photographs. And there's more. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. It appears Mark may have been sabotaging your fertility treatments. I froze, staring at her. What do you mean? Some of the clinics you went to, there's evidence he interfered. He never wanted you to get pregnant, Chloe. My heart clenched so hard I thought it would stop. The room swam. Sophia's words hung in the air, sucking all the oxygen out of the room. I could barely process them. Sabotage? Another family? How could he do this? I looked over at Liam, his tiny hand opening and closing in his sleep. The weight of 20 years came crashing down on me. Every cherished memory, every quiet promise was now tainted, painted over with the ugly brush of his deception. The sobs started quietly, then erupted into racking waves that shook my entire body. How could I have been so blind, so stupid? I'd spent years blaming my own body, my own biology, while he was the one actively working against me. I remembered all the late nights, the failed procedures, the moments I cried myself to sleep while he pretended to comfort me. I trusted him, I said aloud, my voice breaking. I loved him, Sophia. I gave him everything. Sophia stood and put a firm hand on my shoulder. And that's exactly why you have to fight, Chloe. He doesn't deserve your tears. Think about Liam. He needs you to be strong. I looked at my son, and as my tears began to slow, a cold, hard anger began to replace the grief. Sophia was right. My son needed me. I wiped my face, my resolve hardening with every breath. "You're right," I said finally, my voice steadier. "He's not getting away with this." I picked up my phone, stared at the screen for a long moment, and then dialed. "Michael," I said when my lawyer answered. "We have a problem. It's about Mark." A few days later, I heard the familiar purr of Mark's car pulling into the driveway. The separation papers were neatly stacked on the kitchen table, waiting for him. I stayed in the living room, Liam sleeping soundly in his bassinet beside me. The door opened and Mark walked in. "Chloe?" His tone was cautious, like a man sensing a trap. "In here," I said, my voice eerily calm. I didn't waste a second. "Why did you abandon your son?" I asked, each word deliberate and sharp. He blinked, stunned. "What? I didn't abandon anyone. Chloe? I'm sorry, okay? I was confused and emotional. I said a lot of stupid things that made no sense. None of it was true." "The truth?" I tilted my head. "Then why didn't you pick us up from the hospital? Where were you for 3 days? Why didn't you answer a single one of my calls?" He was silent. For a beat, but then his expression softened into that familiar, disarming look he'd mastered. "There was an emergency business trip out of state," he said, his voice oozing fake remorse. "Chloe, I swear, I wasn't ignoring you. I would never do that. Forgive me, sweetheart." "Interesting," I said, leaning back slightly. "What are their names? Your 3 other children?" His face went slack. The smile vanished, replaced by pure, unadulterated shock. For the first time, the mask was gone, and I saw the liar underneath. He stammered, but no other words came out. "Save it," I said, cutting him off with an icy stare. "I know everything, Mark. When you leave today," I said, standing and walking toward the staircase, "don't forget to grab the divorce papers from the kitchen table. It's over." I didn't wait for a reply. I scooped Liam up and carried him upstairs, my heart pounding not with fear, but with power. A moment later, I heard the front door slam. When I came back down later, the papers were gone. It was finally over. A few weeks later, we reached a settlement. Mark walked away with a modest sum, a small price to pay to purge his toxicity from our lives. The house, the cars, and his business interests remained with me, thanks to the mountain of evidence my legal team presented. My lawyers were also building a formidable case against Mark and the complicit fertility clinics. "It'll be a long process," my attorney, Michael, warned me, "but we will win." Time was an investment I was willing to make. For now, my focus was on Liam. He deserved a life free of lies and deception. One evening, as I rocked Liam to sleep, I whispered a promise into his soft hair. "I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never, for 1 second, doubt your worth, little man."